So, ladies and gentlemen, with this, the time has come to bring in the industry experts and hear them talk about how RPA has helped them bring in the digital transformation in their organizations and what new things are they doing to make sure that this is the future. So with this, I would like to introduce Mr. Prasenjit Mukherjee, who as one of the panelists, who will be moderating this session. Thank you so much, Prasenjit, for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, Prasenjit has over 2 decades of experience spanning IT strategy, IT-led business transformation, leading to business growth, agility, and efficiency gains, along with reduction in operational costs. As a technology leader, he has been instrumental in driving enterprise mobility, process optimization, information security, business intelligence, technology, and application integration with focus on implementing integrated and scalable systems to help business grow and at the same time be effective and efficient. Currently, Prasenjit is serving as a CIO and CMO of Team Computers and is responsible for ensuring that company's technology strategy is aligned with its current and future business needs to give the organization a competitive edge. Over to you, Prasenjit. Let's talk.
Yeah, thank you, Rinesh. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Good afternoon, everybody, and a warm welcome. As business strategists and business-aligned IT decision maker, it is a key responsibility of us to keep our business running under different environment during the challenging situations, challenging time, and at a greater scale than ever before. So to eliminate tactical band-aids and costly disruption, organizations need to focus on a long-term, intelligent automation strategy. Now, in this race to outpace digital transformation, robotic process automation is often heralded as a quick and an easy way to streamline critical processes. We all know currently during critical time, during challenging time, the entire business will look forward to a more efficient way of working, more efficient processes, less of cost. So robotic process automation is actually the use of software bots to automate highly repetitive routine tasks normally performed by our knowledge workers, and hence, in a nutshell, we can say that to free all such knowledge workers or employees and to focus on higher value work by automating repetitive tasks. So how do we automate such kind of a repetitive task or a process where such kind of a task is involved? Now, today's session, we will explore how leaders are rethinking their automation strategy and combining robotic process automation with intelligent document processing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to automate complex business processes to a greater degree and bringing positive impact to their business. Today, we have with us two esteemed industry seasoned panelists. First, we have Mr. Sriji Gopinath. I will welcome Mr. Sriji Gopinath on the screen. Hi, Sriji.
Thanks, Prashant.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, Mr. Sriji Gopinath is a global CIO at Lupin. He has more than 18 years of IT leadership industry experience, having worked earlier with ABB, ISRO, Procter & Gamble, Philips India, and RB. He is also an advisor to Urja, helping our ecosystem for empowering differently abled community. So welcome again, Mr. Gopinath.
Thank you, pleasure.
Second panelist we have along with us, Mr. Deepak Rai. Deepak, can you be on the screen? So Mr. Deepak Rai is Director of Finance at Team Computers, and Mr. Rai has a perfect blend of finance and technology experience. Before joining Team Computers, Mr. Rai had decades of experience in the automobile manufacturing industry, where actually process and automation plays a very, very critical role. So welcome, Mr. Rai. Let us start this power-packed discussion around automation, around RPA, and what the industry leaders look towards this kind of latest automation trend. So, Sriji, I will come to you first. Sriji, one of the core pillars of digital transformation today is automation. We all agree. And you were one of the early adopters of RPA. Tell us what made you decide and initiate your automation journey. Would love to hear from you, Sriji.
Thanks, Prosenjit. Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I think it was the evolution of the overall digital transformation journey and the thought process which has led to us taking advantage of RPA. RPA is one of those legs within that overall digital transformation journey, which we started earlier than the others. And hence, we have started to reap the benefits in multiple areas. There's a lot more to do in this space. Now, one of the trigger points for us to really look at RPA is that we, as a company, started a shared service center for finance, global shared service center for finance here in India. And that means, there were a lot of people doing the work which used to be done in different countries around the globe. Okay. And, there's a lot of repetitive tasks involved there. There's a lot of manual work involved there. And there was clearly a demand on the table how we can help them to do that better. Okay. And there were two asks. One is to improve the accuracy of the tasks to be done, which is also linked to the volume of work that is involved. Mm-hmm. And the other one is to automate it and save the time. So that's how it started. The RPA really started the journey in Lupin, and Finance Shared Service Center is the entity within Lupin where a lot of the initial use cases, we started looking at. As you were saying, RPA classically it looks at rule-based automation of repetitive tasks. Yes. Okay. Slowly, once we started seeing the benefits, we started talking about what not only IT team but also the key stakeholders who were seeing the benefits coming out of this within the company started talking about it in different forums, different meetings, and then the energy started picking up in other areas of the organization as well. So even now, if you look at it, it is primarily around finance, tax, HR. There's something called pharmacovigilance in pharma, which is about keeping track of what is happening in the market, etc. From a consumer complaint and so on. So all those areas is where we're focusing on. There is a lot more out there that we can go after. And we are actually now looking at not just RPA, but intelligent RPA as well. So True. This is how the journey came about.
Okay, Sriji, fantastic. In fact, we all will agree that the bringing a technology, bringing a process reengineering to be done in a business system is definitely a task of a CIO. Okay, but a CIO's life becomes easier when the other functions, allied functions, they start adopting and practicing it. Okay, so that is exactly what it has happened in Lupin, what you said. I think it's a fairly good positive sign or signal what the industry is showing. Okay, now Sriji, from what we understand that you currently have deployed automation in various different business functions. Okay, primarily finance, if you say, at Lupin. Now, what was your strategy in identifying and flawlessly deploy the same?
Yeah, so just linking to what you said, automation or any sort of technology introduction or implementation to a company just for the sake of doing it. You do the project and then nobody uses it. Yeah, nobody adopts it. So as you rightly said, if it is the other way around, if it is use case driven, if it is targeted solution for specific needs within the organization, then that is when the real benefits gets to be seen, and that's when the pull starts happening as well.
Sure.
So how did we do that? In the there was a very complicated business case to start with, which was pricing oriented business case in our India business.
Mhm.
This is something which follows a lot of government regulation as well. So that was something which was not done frequent enough. And it was a very, very labor oriented piece of work. So that's how it started. So we started off with actually a very complex one, which actually helped us prove what this technology can do. And then we built a story around it. Once it went live, we built a story around it. There was the commercial finance had, there was a video talking about it. I also did a video talking about it. And then, we discussed that in the leadership teams as well as the functional team meetings. Then we conducted specific sessions for, let's say the key stakeholders within those functions, showing them what was done. And then we also took an outside-in perspective on what could be possible. I mean, in the consulting jargon, the art of possible, right? So we showed them what other companies have done, what we believe could be the possible areas, and that triggered thought within the different stakeholders.
Great.
So soon enough, they started coming forward and saying, okay, this particular reconciliation area or this particular task, my team is supposed to do every week, every month, but I'm not able to do it because it's so labor intensive. It's just not possible. So all these kind of use cases started coming on the table, and we sort of employed, in the end, we employed a partner organization to work with us and start, the discovery as well as shortlisting the meaningful use cases and then going after them. So as of now, we have around close to 40 use cases on the table.
Great.
Out of which 12, a dozen or more are already live and already showing that this is delivering meaningful results. And as I said, meaningful results is not just about the productivity or the number of hours being saved. But just to give you a simple example that every company can look at, the GST reconciliation process. It's a very, very complicated exercise. There is government site related information, the vendor information, rates to be checked, and all those things. And there's a lot of it's not just in our system, right? You have to go to the government website and other portals to get a lot of this information. All these can be actually connected and to a great extent automated, except when there are capture to be, so there are some manual steps. And this will come out, then we'll tell you, okay, this whole process will give you a chunk of outcomes, which is totally automated, and the final outcomes there. But there will also be certain areas which will come back and say, okay, now you need to tell me what to do. Okay, so there's a manual intervention for a particular step, or there could be an exception saying that, sorry, I could not resolve this particular one. This is the exception. Please go take a look. And the moment this kind of outcomes started coming, and more people started talking, we started getting more and more use cases. And to also maybe qualify a little bit, there were a lot of use cases actually which were not candidates for RPA. We could do using the other programs, whichever solutions, whichever applications we're using, we could automate within that solution itself. So we used to do a qualification. We have a qualification criteria that we follow, which one actually qualifies for RPA, and that gets into the use case list, and we go after it.
Okay, great. In fact, Srijit, thanks for all these insights, because I think the target audience who are actually listening to us, they will get a fair amount of idea that which are the different places where they can actually implement RPA outright, through a discussion. Okay. And another thing, what I could actually take another insight from you, that adoption, what we were talking about, like training the people, a workshop or whatever, and then actually showing them the industry use cases, and let the people speak and come back to you. Okay, so that the rollout or the spread of the such kind of a repeated process, where actually there might be in a large size organization, there might be IR issues, there might be labor issues, but still we can come back with the technology. Okay, so excellent, good insights. Right, Srijit, now we will shift to Mr. Deepak Rai, about whom I've already spoken, like has a perfect experience and a blend of finance and a technology guy. So Deepak, welcome. And I know, yeah, I know that team computers do have a principle of adopting and implementing automation and technologies for their internal business process before implementing it for our customers. Okay, now you have been using RPA services for multiple processes. Okay, I know that we have implemented. As a finance leader, timely availability of business intelligence, which is based on error-free document processing, is the key to a long-term success. How do you think automation has brought that to your table, and has it made number crunching easy for you as a director of finance?
Uh, Thank you, Prasenjit, for the introduction. And, I must compliment Shriji also. I think he gave a very, relevant and an overview of the technology and the use cases. So one of the backdrop of our businesses, as I'm sure, for a lot of other businesses, is that the transaction, if I look at team computers, the velocity of the transactions and the kind of so earlier our transactions were mostly of one nature. When I say one nature, that means we were dealing with, mostly our invoice size was about between 15 lakhs to about 45-50 lakhs. There were invoices which had a lower value, but they were few and far between. But for the past 3 years, uh, both the velocity and the value dispersion of the invoices, that means the quantum of invoices. So I'm also invoicing amounts which are less than a lakh, and
Okay.
a large number of those invoices, as also I'm invoicing, in crores. So my tolerance for any error in the system is next to zero. I cannot have, because we have the unique system, or the unique aspect of our business is that every end device that we sell to our customers, it has a unique serial number which is tagged to our OEs. So, for example, a mobile or a laptop or any server or any IT equipment, it has a serial number which needs to be captured into our system, so that the customers then can, tag onto it, and if there is a requirement, reach out to the
Mhm.
OE.
Okay.
Now, earlier this was a manual process, and as you can imagine, we move millions of assets through our organization in a year. So this entailed a manual, keying in of these data, which is a 20-25 digit code, and it was subject to a lot of error. So one of the biggest advantages that I see is that after we've automated the capturing of our vendor invoices
Okay.
into the system, we have suddenly cleaned out the system. I am much more secure, and I am much more safer. My payment, it has, Prasenji, the interesting thing is that it has impacted my receipt from customers. So the customers, their validations, their process of, validating my invoices has become faster and more secure. So that has in turn also impacted my collection periods.
Mhm.
So I would say that this is an inevitable, direction in which all of us will sooner or later find ourselves in, and we will have more and more digital transactions, and we will depend more and more on these kind of automations in the coming future.
In fact, good insight, Deepak. Deepak and Shriji, I was just thinking when Deepak was talking, like if suppose what will happen when the entire ecosystem, where both the vendor as well as the customer both have a RPA working. Okay, so how seamlessly the entire process will flow and how efficiently the system will work. Okay, so fantastic, Deepak.
So just 1 minute, Prasenjit, it's very interesting that you touch upon this.
Mhm.
Only yesterday, I have spoken to Ingram Micro,
Uh-huh.
and we are actually in the process of doing something like what you're saying. So we are the
Yeah.
customers of Ingram Micro,
So Ingram is
and
basically a distributor to us. Okay. And we are a
right.
customer to them. Yeah.
Yeah, and we will be picking up one large customer. I would like to identify SBI or some such bank which is all over the country. So documents and boards, we will be seamlessly the moment our customer or our vendor invoices us, we will receive it. Our RPA bot will automatically upload the data
Mhm.
and send it across to our customers.
Mhm.
So the end-to-end possibilities are tremendous. They are very
True, true,
immense.
true. If you look
Yeah.
into your customer experience, if you, as a finance person, if you look into your order to cash, reducing the order to cash cycle, whatever, okay, any process you talk about, it will bring an efficiency. Great, great. Sriji, I'll come back to you. Okay. Sriji, being a CIO, your key KPIs, or rather, as a CIO, the key KPIs will be looking around new and strategic business IT initiatives, improving data migration across applications, managing your various IT business partners, and ensuring better reporting and compliance in IT operations, and definitely the performance analysis also. But to be very specific, what benefits have you derived in terms of ROI? Because you are an early adopter to all this. Okay. Now, what kind of benefits have you derived from these ROI, agility, or the low code, no code performance of RPA?
Yeah. So it depends on the use case, but generically, I would say there are couple of areas where we can classify this, as which I mentioned a little bit touch based earlier as well. It's the quality of the outcome. That's the number one area where people really appreciate as well. Yeah? I mean, one could be because of the amount of manual work involved. There's a lot of error possibilities, and hence when you define the rules and when you have the bots executing those processes, the accuracy levels go up. The second one could be the repeatability of certain processes, which I said, the pricing related one, or it's about the purchase register validations or sales register validations or commodity price validations from the market. So if you look at the volume of work involved in this, and if somebody has to go and look at this manually or do these validations manually, it's next to impossible to have that done frequently, and hence they will do this once every quarter or once every 6 months. And what RPA does is that this can be done as frequently as possible. So there have been cases where we have gone down from a particular task taking from 80 hours to a matter of 4 to 5 hours for the board. So the amount of productivity improvement and the repeatability of some of these tasks significantly goes up. So this is one KPI that we measure.
Yeah, I will just pause you, Sriji, here. Just a second pause. In fact, what you rightly said, just post this panel discussion, we will actually showcase what internally in team we have done, which will actually reduce this particular time period, what you are rightly mentioning. We will be showing that particular live thing. Okay. Yeah, please, Sriji.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah, just to give you an idea of one of the use cases, there is a process where related to the export and import that we do. There is a process of checking the end-to-end documents and eliminating duplication and making sure whatever we need to do in terms of duties, taxes, etc., all calculated properly. It used to take annually around 3,000 hours to do this work, and that's like literally taken down to wafer thin number of hours. The only time needed is for the whatever the number of hours the bot runs is actually the time that takes.
And what was the number of manpower involved in that? It was
significant number of people were involved, not just in in the tax team, but also in the shared services, in the finance team, in the purchase team, in the sales organization. A lot of people involved in this process as well. So, there are a number of use cases. So this is one KPI. The second KPI is, of course, there are daily processes which is mundane, really, just how do you say it? There's no better way of saying dumb tasks, right?
Oh, no value addition.
No value addition. Yeah. So these get completely automated. So this saves a number of hours, and you can use that manpower for better tasks somewhere else. Okay. The third one is actually the more powerful one. When you want to combine the rule-based automation that RPA can bring with the technologies like artificial intelligence, which we nowadays call intelligent RPA. But what it is really is, you are mingling RPA with intelligent automation in other processes using AI and ML technologies. So we are actually doing a couple of those now. Not so easy, especially in the early phases. There's a lot of OCR and NLP and all those kind of technologies involved in this, and hence the accuracy of some of those outcomes takes time for us to train and then make sure that we're getting the outcomes right. But this is a very, very powerful area. Instead of just looking at repetitive tasks, but actually take the process outcomes and make it self-learning and improve the accuracy as we go.
Great.
So,
Great.
So these are the areas that we look at in terms of the KPIs that we want to drive, purely from an RPA point of view.
I know. Thanks, Suchi. Deepak, with growing business comes an increased number of transactions, what you actually have mentioned previously while answering me. Okay, and reconciliation can get tricky. Do you think automation can be a good fit here, which you actually have done? And have you automated such processes like bank reconciliation, vendor payment reconciliation? Okay, what you have done practically here?
Yeah, so I think bank reco, for any CFO is the starting point of compliance. Shiji had mentioned tax recos and said GSTs and now increasingly TDS. So what we have done is that we have automated our bank reconciliation process. So our bank transactions are humongous since our invoices are huge, and that automatically correlates to collections. And we earlier had an army of 3 or 4 people who were continuously tasked with just bank reconciliations, just collecting data from various banks, matching it with our GLs, and automating and putting in the transactions. And we were always struggling to keep our books absolutely current, because we have a very vibrant business intelligence platform which a lot of stakeholders are using across the country. So we implemented a bot where we are now extracting information from the bank and updating it every half an hour. So it's a paradigm shift from our earlier regime where we were looking at we were struggling to do yesterday's reconciliation today.
Okay.
And we were always left with a residual kind of entries or residual a recon portion which we were then chasing the day after. So effectively our bank clear position and the books were always there was a difference. Now we are current to about half an hour, and in some days it's about an hour, but it's a very current situation. And at the end of the day, when we are closing our books, we are able to move the monies, very scientifically. So when we look at our bank balances, we know what's going to hit into our banks. And at the just before, an hour or two before, we are able to move our monies, and it has helped our treasury balancing, and it has impacted our cost of interest payouts. So I think this is one of the most significant advantages that we have derived out of the bank reconciliation process.
Mhm.
And my next target is to automate the, so we've done the GST bit, which Shriji had mentioned. That's a very, again, a very tedious and a dumb task to extract data out of the government servers and to match it up with our payments, and then to check which vendors have uploaded their returns onto the server, and then distill which vendors need to be paid and whose payments need to be held up. And now there is another complication, that there is a TDS element which has been attached also on top of this, and there are some some customers of ours which are in the government sector which also deduct TDS on GST.
Okay.
So there is a plethora of possibilities which are now emerging, and there is now the TCS reconciliation also. So we are going to get live in the month of March, by the end of March, on a comprehensive across the board all our compliance reconciliations through the bot. So this is very significant I think shift which we will move to.
Great,
So,
great initiatives. Wonderful.
yeah.
Wonderful. Thanks, Deepak. I would request the participants here, if they want to ask any question to this wonderful panel, they can definitely ask. Okay, they will just push in your questions to the question and answer tab. Sriji, I'll come back to you. Okay, now at the beginning of this particular session, we had done a poll. Okay, and in the poll, we got to know that people, as far as evaluating the technology, we have 31% of the people who are evaluating the technology. Okay, we have 26% who are planning and experimenting. Okay, they have not reached to the level of evaluation. Okay, we have 16% who are trying to do a pilot. We have 21% who are scaling up the RPA setup. Already they have implemented and they're scaling up. 21%, fantastic. Okay, and 20% people have not begun as yet. Okay, now looking into all these things, okay, what would be your advice and key pointers to keep in mind while onboarding the right technology? Okay, you see, as an early adopter, you already have brought in RPA using some technology. Okay, so you must have actually had a plan, thought about that. If suppose I bring in this technology, this will be the right choice, and this is how we can move ahead. So what were those parameters to onboard the right technology, keeping in mind while people, they are already in this particular journey of implementing, or they're in a pilot mode, or somebody have implemented, they're actually in the maturity stage. We would require your insights on this, Sriji.
See, as in any technology initiatives that we have, the selection of the technology and making it work is actually the easiest part of it. The most difficult part is the cultural element of making it a success.
True.
So if this is going to be done in isolation, then I think it will deliver results only for isolated use cases. So there has to be, the thought process of where each organization is standing, where do they want to go in terms of the efficiencies and the outcomes that digitization and data analytics can bring. And that starts at the top, and it has to be a top-down as well as a bottom-up connection that needs to be evolving in the organization. Then you link these initiatives into that journey. Okay, that is when the momentum starts building. Okay. That is when you will see different parts of the organization starting to believe in what is possible, and you can go after them. So technology, as I said, is really not the difficult piece here. There's, as you know, in the RPA itself, there are a couple of market leaders. There are a few challengers already in the foray, who are specifically positioning them in the intelligent RPA and so on and so forth, right? So this to me was not the really difficult piece, provisioning the infrastructure, making sure which technology can be used, how many creators do you need, how many bot runners do you need. I mean, this comes after you have done the first one. Okay. You know how to make it scalable. But the important thing is the leadership really paints the story of what automation can do for the organization. Do you want to remain in the manual ways of working? Do you want to look at and experiment and learn what automation could bring? So that leadership engagement, as if we are technology leaders, then we should facilitate that conversation. We should facilitate that energy buildup. We should facilitate that cultural shift that is needed to bring about real value creation using this kind of mechanisms.
Okay. So the pointers, what I could get is technology is fine, one of the important part, but the major thing, the leadership, what kind of in a canvas, what kind of painting he is actually doing. Okay, involving the key stakeholders, the different functions who will be involved, not in isolation or not in silo. Okay, definitely the implementation partner also makes a difference. What kind of maturity level they have, who can actually join hands together and implement it smoothly. Adoption. Okay, the people who are actually adapting it and actually spreading the word of mouth and taking it forward, okay, without any kind of challenge. I think these are the key things which people should keep in mind. Okay, I have one or two questions. Let me see. Aman. Okay, Aman.
If I may interrupt for a second, Prasenjit, we'll take the questions towards the end.
Okay.
In the interest of time, we would like to go ahead and cover the other two things that we want to cover this session, and we'll come to the Q&A in the end.
Okay. So Rinesh, I will just take 1 minute of yours or for a few seconds. Sure. Like what I could feel and what actually the industry should also know, like key process, a key task, a key function like finance, where organization has the critical financial data which runs the business. If the organizations who are actually thinking towards automation, organizations who are thinking towards more business efficiency, they are putting finance as the first function to move towards RPA. I think RPA has a huge power, okay, which people should adopt and take it forward. Rinesh, you can continue here.
Thank you so much, Prasenjit. That was great. You are absolutely right. And thank you so much, Fiji and Deepak, for your keen thoughts. And those were some really good insights. It's very clear, Prasenjit, as you rightly said, finance being the leader. But today, I feel from the understanding that Fiji specifically gave us, we understand that the digital workforce or RPA is transforming all business functions and in an organization. And our leaders are moving in the right direction and driving this change. So this is excellent. Thank you so much, Fiji, Prasenjit, and Deepak for this. Deepak, I would request you to stay with us for a few minutes, as we would like to ask you a couple of more questions around some specific use cases that we wanted to show the audience here today. Sure. So moving on, as I promised, that we will be showing how Team Computers have leveraged RPA with a couple of few live demos that we'll demonstrate and that we have shown here. Although we have deployed this in various functions in HR, in IT, in finance, but we handpicked these use cases specifically for you today. For this, I now call upon Mukul, our bot guru, to take us through these use cases. Over to you, Mukul.
So in the labor compliance one, Team Computers has a very big practice of technical staffing solutions, and we provide managed resources to our customers. And each of the customers have their own compliance formats, state-wise compliance formats. And as a compliance, we also have to share the data with them regarding for the third-party payroll processing, the page of the register of wages, the PF details, the ESI details, and a lot of compliance guidelines that are there by the state governments. And so earlier, there were a lot of, so there were 2 full-time equivalent employees who were managing all these reports for the customers. But now we have one single bot that prepares all the reports and shares it with the customers. So on the right side top, that is the input file, these are the input files which we extract from our ERP and the HRMS. From the HRMS and ERP, we collate the data into the format, which the compliant format for respective state governments and the respective customers. And you can see the speed at which it is happening. Earlier, when it was being done manually, each of the files used to take at least 10 to 15 minutes. And we can see that it is happening in less than 5 or 10 seconds for one format. So on the right side, bottom, you can see that all the files have been prepared as per the locations. And I'll quickly open one of the files and show you how it looks.
So I believe Mukul
contains all the details of employees, their time sheets, and their wages, their flexi benefits, their EPF, and all the details.
Just on the labor compliance, Jatin, if I can request you to come online for just 1 second. Quickly, if you can just help us understand on the labor compliance, what is this use case all about? Is it a mandatory compliance of the government? And what challenges are you solving here by leveraging RPA? If you can throw us just one quick insight on it.
Sure. Rinesh, am I audible? Hello? Am I audible, Rinesh?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Rinesh, a lot of our customers, they have strict labor compliance requirements, and we have to adhere to that to get our payments out. And every state has their own kind of formats. They have their own compliance statutory needs with respect to the attendance, ESI and PF, etc. All those statutory requirements that we have to fill in up. Now, these look at the quantum of the total work, where we have thousands of people, where we have to send these attendance data to various customers in many states. It's a very, very tedious activity spread across multiple locations. And I think 2 people full time working for the entire month, just working on filling up a manual data to these various forms. The limitation is that we can't change these form formats. We have to stick to these form formats. And the data is there in our HRMS systems. The data is there in ERP. So we tried a lot of querying to these databases to get the data out and help these people. But what automation could bring on the table was something phenomenal. And the entire work of these various people across multiple locations, the data, everything got consolidated to almost half a day, and all automated. The only work that is required as a human intervention is send this data to the customer email ID for processing the payments. So that has really, really helped us a lot. The entire efficiency of the system has gone up.
Now, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to bring this session to an end. I am Rinesh Kara, and I look after the RPA business practice here at Team Computers. We'll be happy to answer all your queries apart from this session as well. Do reach out if you feel automation is the right way for you to move ahead. But before I sign off and before we bring this session to an end, I would like to share a little thought on Ikigai, the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. This comes from a book, actually, the Ikigai. Follow your Ikigai. There is a passion inside you, a unique talent that gives meaning to your days and drives you to share the best of yourself until the very end. If you don't know what your Ikigai is yet, as Viktor Frankl says, your mission is to discover it. So let's do that. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining on this session today. We really enjoyed having you here on this call. Do reach out on the QR code in case you have any queries. And if you would like to give us a feedback for this session, thank you so much, our panelists. Have a great evening ahead and looking forward to a Friday, Saturday, Sunday now. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.